Starting with news from Cuba this morning, the communist government of Cuba is currently facing the largest protests in decades. People are pouring out onto the streets across the Caribbean country, anger against shortages of basic goods, curbs on civil liberties, and a COVID-19 surge is growing like wildfire here. Experts say these protests could become a turning point for the country, but the government clearly does not think so. Authorities have resorted to assault, arrests, and internet shutdowns. A 23-year-old man named Carol Aguilar was arrested for protesting alone. The visuals on your screen right now is coming from a small city in Cuba called Ibarra. The young man was seen shouting in public before being escorted to a police patrol. His mother, who stays in Austria, posted this video on Facebook asking for his release, but Cuba has restricted access to social media platforms like Facebook and WhatsApp. The protesters have full support of the U.S. government. In a statement, White House has called on for immediate release of those detained at the protest, and that Cuba, the people of Cuba, are protesting against years of oppression by the government. The Biden administration is still reviewing its policy on Cuba and said that the protests will impact its approach.
I think we've been pretty clear that we think people are leaving Cuba, or not leaving Cuba, or protesting in the streets as well, because they are opposed to the oppression, to the mismanagement of the government in the country. And we certainly support their right to protest. We support their efforts to speak out against their treatment in Cuba.
Germany has also condemned violence against protesters in Cuba. The Foreign Minister Heiko Maas took to Twitter, calling on Miguel Diaz-Canel government to seek dialogue and release all those arrested. Now, these protests against the Cuban government are not confined to the Caribbean country. Spain, United States, Argentina, people in Florida, Madrid and Buenos Aires took to the streets in support of the protesters. On restricted social media platforms, residents called for humanitarian aid. The government denounced it, calling it malicious effort to destabilize the country. But meanwhile, the Prime Minister has temporarily lifted restrictions on the amount of food and medicine travelers could bring into the country.
Que es autorizar excepcionalmente y con carácter temporal la importación por la vía del pasajero, es decir, el equipaje acompañante en el viaje, los alimentos, aseos y medicamentos sin límite de valor de importación y libre de pago de aranceles.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.